If you've been feeling something akin to emotional whiplash, you're not alone. I have to tell you, so many people I've spoken to over the past week, and myself included, have been talking about this feeling whiplashy emotionally after, especially in Melbourne, but I think it's true for everybody in one form or another at the moment. Here in Melbourne, of course, our very long lockdown is not that far distant, so it's still present in our minds. So to go into a snap lockdown last week, even though it was for 5 days, which was, comparatively very short, was quite traumatic for a lot of people. So if you felt that, just know that you're not on your own. A lot of people were feeling that level of trauma and fear and anxiety, and I talked about it quite a bit last week. But this week, now that we're back out of lockdown again, it's been fascinating to me to hear the words that people have been using, and this concept of emotional whiplash around quickly snapping back into lockdown, quickly snapping back out again, and now just sort of like feeling like far out what just happened. A lot of people are talking to me about that. I know that business owners in certain sectors in particular have also had significant financial pain around the past lockdown. So my heart especially goes out to those of you, especially those in hospitality and floristry and other industries that really did it tough in this past snap lockdown. But for everybody, and I'm going to say, if we're all feeling it as grown-ups, let's not forget that our kids are experiencing it too. So for everybody, there really is this emotional jerking around that goes on with all these rapid changes. And I think it's only fair that we give ourselves a little bit of grace and a little bit of space to feel all of those feelings and to be kind and compassionate to ourselves in light of those feelings. If you're a business owner, you're probably fairly used by now anyway to having to innovate quickly and dance on the tips of your toes all the time. But it's fatiguing, it's exhausting, and it makes it incredibly difficult to plan. And that is another stressor in itself. I'll give you an example. Some of my top tier, if you like, coaching clients. I have a group called Like a Boss, and this is my sort of highest level coaching program. And we get together, we're meant to get together a few times a year in person. Haven't been able to get together in person with that crew of people since March last year. And that working retreat ended with us going very rapidly towards the first lockdown here in Australia. We are now preparing for this March. Our first working retreat for Like a Boss this year, and there have been so many conversations happening around, will we have it in person, will we have it as a virtual event, will we have it as a hybrid event with a combination of both, what are we going to do? And I'm going to be talking to those people tomorrow about that particular dilemma. But it is an illustration of just how difficult it is to plan at the moment. We would all love to be traveling somewhere and bunkering down, what's the word? I don't know, hatches for a few days working together. But we just can't guarantee that that's a possibility right now, especially I think after the recent series of snap lockdowns. Melbourne, Adelaide, Perth, there's been a few of them around Australia now, and it just reinforces how hard it is to plan anything, especially if it involves travel. So feeling like we're not in control and having that repeatedly thrown in our faces is very, very challenging. It's a significant stressor. It really does contribute to a sense of anxiety and a sense of hopelessness. And for those of you doing it particularly tough, that's a huge risk for depression as well. So please do keep an eye on how you're coping. Please keep an eye on how you're traveling, both as a business owner and just as a human being. And if you do have kids, keep an eye on how they're traveling too. I know that my kids have had differing degrees of emotional reaction to lockdown. So keep an eye on yourself and your kids and your team members if you're a business owner too, because we're all feeling it to some degree or another. it is, that sense of being out of control that really does underpin it all, and not knowing when we're going to regain some sense of control. Now, COVID vaccines have started rolling out in Australia this week. That's very exciting. I think it is a double-edged sword in terms of excitement that the vaccine has arrived, but uncertainty around when individuals will be able to access that vaccine depending on where they sit in the prioritised listings or phases of that rollout. So if you're finding all of this really anxiety provoking, just know that that's a normal reaction. There is so much uncertainty around us. There is so much unpredictability, and we just can't do much to change a lot of these factors influencing our lives and influencing our businesses. So my tip for you today is to absolutely focus on what you can control and be in charge of those things. So for me, for example, with the working retreat for next month, I could make a decision to make it a virtual event. I can make it a decision to make it an in-person event. That decision is up to me. And then what my attendees choose to do in terms of whether or not they turn up for it in person is up to them. I'm not in control of their decision. So that's part of the conversation I'll have with them tomorrow. But for you, it might be just deciding on what you can do for your own self-care, what you can do for your own team, and what you can do for your own business, the stuff that's in your control. Focus on that. And then we all just have to practice a little bit of acceptance around the stuff we can't change. And that is a challenge, I know. It is frustrating, it is difficult, it is never ending, it seems. But practicing acceptance, the stuff that we can't change, just reminding ourselves it is what it is until it's something different, and we'll deal with that then. So, happy Monday. Have a lovely evening. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Wishing you all the best for the week ahead, and please do look after yourselves. Bye for now.